Philippians chapter 1. Let me pick up reading with verse number 18. Philippians chapter 1, verse number 18. What then? Paul writes, notwithstanding every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is preached, and I therein do rejoice, yea, and will rejoice. For I know that this shall turn to my salvation through your prayer and the supply of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, according to my earnest expectation and my hope that in nothing I shall be ashamed, but that with all boldness as always, so now also Christ shall be magnified in my body, whether it be by life or by death. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Let's pray together, if you will. Father, we thank you for your Bible. We believe, Lord, that the Bible is the book of God, the Word of God. And because of that, we go into your book with anticipation. We know then that God, you being alive, obviously, you say that your Word is alive since it comes from you. And you use it, as it were, like a tool in a skilled surgeon's hand. And you do in our lives, you do in our hearts, you do in our minds the things that need to be done. And God, we're so grateful for that. Maybe one day, it won't be till maybe the other side, but maybe one day there'll be time. And we'll all have the inclination to be able to stand up and just go into great detail about some of the things that you've done for us, even in this past week. Speaking to our hearts, encouraging. It's a blessing every time we turn into the New Testament, 27 books. It's a special blessing every time we turn into one of the epistles. That's King James for a letter that God, through His chosen ones, wrote to us, because it's God giving us what He wants us to have. Okay? Now, God is, if you will, I almost hesitate to use it because I've heard it used wrongly. God's like a good parent. But He's better than that. Did anybody here have parents that wanted you to always eat your veggies? I don't want no veggies, I want a hamburger. It's one of the joys of growing up. You eat the veggies. I'll eat the hamburgers. Amen? It's all right to smile, y'all. The more you smile, the faster I'll get done. How about that? Teeth everywhere. Gosh. God then, through Paul, says, if you will, I want you to understand something from verse number 12. And that word understand, to me, pivotal for the meaning here. It's from a Greek word, gnosko. I point that out because it's one of several different words used in the New Testament. It's translated to know, to see, to understand, to perceive, several other ways. But this word gnosko, in its own right, is a very descriptive word in that as soon as you hear it, once you understand the word, it summons up an image. A very distinct image, the image of time, the image of the passing of time, the image of the time that it takes to understand something. Now, stay with me if at all possible. From this perspective, a child can learn the word, the concept burn immediately. Okay? I've told you before, my little guy, I don't know, he's about a year old, way down yonder. You know, Bernie, Bernie, don't touch the wood stove. I may as well have been talking to that column holding up the building here. But once he laid those fat little fingers on the wood stove, instantly he understood burn. Amen, you following me? A teenager can come to learn the word curfew immediately. Now, I don't know how you cats are doing it these days. In my days, be home at 11 o'clock or else. Else included, among other things, you don't use my car no more, and even if you could, it probably wouldn't matter because I may murderize you at 11:05. And immediately a teenager can grasp the meaning curfew. I guarantee y'all, crack down on curfew, next Friday night they'll be home on time. Anybody? My wife remembers with relish coming home from a date, I won't tell you with who, 5 minutes late. 5 minutes. Y'all are thinking, what's 5 minutes? Especially when I'm preaching, amen? 5 minutes late, her daddy stepped out on the porch in his, you don't say drawers in church, in whatever the word is that you can say in church, and said, Lily Patricia, in the house now, and to the young man in question, don't ever come back to this house again. Next Friday night, she didn't wonder what curfew meant. Anybody? You get the drift here? An employee likewise can learn immediately the concept fired. I have never heard of someone being fired and showing up to work for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. I have heard of people who got hired and didn't show up for 2, 3, 4 weeks. Fired, whatever else it means, is I ain't gonna pay you. And it don't take long for that to sink in. And I hope I'm sinking in with you, but how about this one? A spouse can learn immediately the meaning of the word in-law. Anybody? How about ushers? Can we feed some of these kids some sugar? Even they just get excited about being in a chair. You're not following. How about this one? I'll go the other way. On the other hand, there are things that require time to understand. I really am going somewhere with this. Requires time. Think about it. Any of you been in a paint store lately and shopped for white paint? I mean, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. I didn't know there were 75 whites. Have you been? I'm thinking, man, you're nuts. I got to go home and paint something. I'm going to be a week and a half deciding what white is now. Anybody? It takes time. You study it. What you thought was white, that's not white. I don't know what they call it. How about this one? You ever browsed down the grocery aisle anytime lately and looked for cereal? Cereal. They make fun of old people. And I know we're funny to look at. But I did see a gleam of hope. Patrick's got this thing on the front of his head with hair standing up. I want one of them. I'm thinking maybe a little Velcro. You know, I don't know what's... I believe I could play the guitar better. I could sing better. Maybe it would blow in the breeze while I preach. I think I could go places with one of those. They make fun of old people, but one of the reasons is you go to buy cereal. It's like 700 different brands of cereal. Now, if you're not a cereal eater, you can't appreciate this. I want to go get my Total cereal. Total. You know. And I'm talking y'all week after week after week, and I stand there and stare and go through. I've got the system, you know, you run down this one. And man, it's long, and you come back down the other one. It's not here, it's not here, it's not here. One little kid comes walking along, talking on 3 telephones at once, don't even look at the shelf, grabs the Total and goes on about his business. Old people have a hard time with this thing. Time is required to understand something. One last one, and I promise I'll leave this point. There are things you can understand immediately. There are things that take time to grasp adequately. Have any of you men had your wife tell you lately, I'm ready? Yesterday. It's time to go. We have to go now, or there ain't no reason to go. I'm ready. I wish I had a picture. Standing in the mirror. Men, aren't you glad for mirrors? When they're looking in the mirror, they ain't writing you out a to-do list. And I don't know what she's got, some kind of a painting apparatus, you know, going with the eye up there. And I'm thinking, no, you're not ready. Ready means we're walking out the door. Ready means we're in the vehicle. Ready means we've gotten here on time. Anybody? I'm ready. They need to write a manual, the 7 stages of ready. There are things that take time. I'm being foolish, but y'all, I'm trying to make a point here. The word gnosko that God chose to use out of several, at least, that were available, it means to recognize, to perceive, to come to know. Time is required. How many of you here this morning know things about God, know things about the Christian life that you didn't used to know, even as a saved person? It takes time. And you may know something as a fact up here, but it requires time to make it down here to where it becomes on a situation is not always the correct take. As time passes by and you continue to seek the Lord, you will realize that God's been at work. He's working out details that right now I may know nothing about, and that God has more irons in the fire than just you and your life. Can anybody give me a witness? It takes time. We're living in a day where everything seems to revolve around me, and then a little extra me. Y'all, that's not what heaven's about. Amen? I heard an old boy say, some of y'all don't want to get saved because you don't want to go to heaven. Because heaven ain't going to be about you. And I thought, well, what an awful thing to say. Shame it's the truth. Me. That's all it is. And I'm not trying to sing that. Wow. God's got more irons in the fire than just me? Why? Disciple, remember, Romans 8:28, we all know it, love it. We know that all things work together for good to, fill in the blank. Somebody? I ain't heard it yet. King James, chapter 8, verse 28. All things work together for good to them that love God. He said, well, what difference does that make? That's what I used to ask my English teacher. What difference does that make? What's pursing anyway? Them, y'all. Me is not synonymous with them. Now think about that thing. Think about it. There is a difference between beef bologna and chicken bologna. Any of y'all? What have I got, like scholars here today? You picked the wrong blooming church. Bologna. The little granddaughter said, that's not bologna, it's bologna. I have no idea, y'all, but it's bologna in my house. Them includes me, but me and them are not one and the same concept. He said, no, that's really dumb. Anybody knows that. But the point being made, Romans 8:28, Paul's alluding to here, Philippians 1, is that God's at work using all things together for the whole crowd of them that love Him. And it's for all of their good, not just mine. If I could get a grasp of that idea, my life would change. Because it's not all about me. It's all about God. Amen. And what He's doing in the life of everyone that loves Him. So sometimes He's going to scratch your back, and sometimes He's going to scratch her back, and then maybe by and by He'll get a minute and He'll reach over and scratch my back. But that's the way it works. Amen. Well, I would rather Him scratch me all the time. We got this useless cat. Y'all are tired of hearing about it. You ain't half as tired as I am of talking about it. He was supposed to be a he. He had 4 kittens the other day. She told him that was the deal. We ain't getting no cat unless it's a boy cat. It's a boy cat, I promise you. Then she started, it's hard to tell when they're young whether they're boys or girls. And okay, maybe that's the truth. But when he swelled up like a cantaloupe, I begin to worry. Anyway, as good a mama as he is, that useless rig, all I got to do is stick my hand out and he'll drop those little babies like a hot rock. So I'll come over and he'll come over so I can scratch his backside. I'm serious. She says, well, she needs that because she's under such a burden right now. No, he's just useless. That's why he needs she, it, they, whatever. I want God to scratch me. He will. And it's going to work. And you'll come through it. But it's for everybody that God's working. Everyone in his family. And Paul knew, I think it's safe to assume, that in order for the disciple to ever experience peace, he had to understand this. Why? Well, there Paul sat in his jail cell for doing right. Amen? Doing right. If I could only go to jail for doing right, I probably wouldn't be in jail. But he was. And y'all, as we learn God's Word and as we're learning God's ways, we come to understand that you can do right and things go wrong, seemingly. Are we learning that? Somebody jokingly said it a few minutes ago, that grandchildren are the reward for not killing your teenagers. And there may be some truth to that. I don't know. They go through this, no man's zone when they used to be about 16. And then they become very godlike. They know everything. Anybody? I don't know. Well, maybe nobody had. That's the way it was with me. You try and do right. What in the world is happening here? This cat's from space. The aliens got my boy. I read a bumper sticker. In fact, I may have mentioned this one time. Going down the road, back end of some old car, the bumper sticker said, "Ain't God good?" I said, well, that's not good grammar. Think there'll be any grammar teachers in heaven? Ain't God good? The interesting thing about this was, that old car we were following, I was thinking it was like a 1957 Rambler or something. It was blowing a quart of oil about every 100 feet. It had a flat tire, a busted windshield. It was missing one door, but that worked out well because the other 3 doors wouldn't open. And the bumper sticker says, "Ain't God good?" One old boy said, "Man, he's about killed you. What would I want with God like that?" We were sitting at the gas station the other day. This is the honest truth. I ain't even embellishing this thing. In fact, what we do Saturday evenings, we usually ride up to the Hess. That's a gas station. And we get a big orange. You say, "Man, you are nuts." Amen. That's the only reason she ever agreed to marry me. Anybody that stupid can't live but so long. We were sitting, I'm telling you the truth, as sure as I'm standing here, a Cadillac pulled in. I won't, like new. I should have noticed when as it came in, the driver's side passenger window was duct taped.
That's a clue.
Clue. But that ain't nothing. They pulled up to the gas pump, and the car just sat there for a while. And I'm sitting there, sucking on the big orange. And a child climbs out the sunroof. I'm telling you the truth. If she was here, she'd be under the chair because of some of her kin. A child climbs out the sunroof, climbs down over the side of the car, walks around, opens Grandma's door. And by all appearances, just ain't nothing else worked. Open the sunroof, you got somebody limber that can get out, then then they'll open the door. And she got out and pumped her gas. She got back in the car. Now, I ain't figured this one out yet. She got back in the car, the kid slams the door, climbs back up over the hood, down through the sunroof, and all that. I thought, well, there's not one thing you can add to that bumper sticker that may help, the growing disciple. Ain't God good? He just ain't done yet. Amen? Anybody? Listen, I love this. I love this with all my heart. God is good. He's at work in my life and in your life and in every single person's life that loves Him. You may not be driving a Hummer. You may not be driving a Beamer. You may not even be in a Mercedes. But there's a day coming. The old boy said, the believer, the disciple, is going to shuck out of this here accord. Then, as you lay there in the proverbial box, someone's going to say, "Don't he look good?" And you know, I figured that thing out. It will work. It'll work, because you know what? The fact is, they should be saying, and it's kind of implied there, "Don't he look gone?" Full car, blowing oil. Who cares? It ain't going to last but for so long. David said, "I have been young and am now old, and I ain't never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread." That took time to figure that out, but he knew, and he's communicating to us. God, through the blessed writers, are letting us know, hey, it's this thing time, and it's this thing the sovereignty of God. Verse 13, 14, Philippians 1, Paul, knowing that God was at work even in the jail cell, there he is living faithfully the Christian life, even in the jail cells. And listen, word about Christ still getting out. Why is this happening? Well, God's at work. If he can do it best with you and the pokey somewhere, that's what he's going to do. He's good, amen? And verse 18, Paul said, through this thing, Christ is being proclaimed. And y'all, the soup starts getting thick there in this world. Christ being talked about, if you will, paraphrase verse 18. And then he says, therein, I therein do rejoice, yea, and will rejoice. One last definition, so I can shut this thing down. You think, shut it down? It ain't but like 11:59? I've turned over a new leaf, y'all. The word rejoice. I hear Jenny Boo. The word rejoice, you know what that word literally means? It's a Greek word. George is not here. I can say it, not be embarrassed. Kairo. It means calmly happy. Now, that can't be right. I heard people all my life, well, I'm rejoicing, I'm hollering, I'm shouting, I'm jumping up and down in church. Any of y'all ever jump up and down in church? Any of y'all ever lie in church? Anybody ever show any emotion at all in church? It amazes me, preaching to a picture, one old boy said. And finally, when the preacher said amen, they jump up like they're going to a football game. You know? A miracle, the dead have raised to life. Calmly happy. Now, y'all, look here. Christianity is real. It's real. When I got saved 5 minutes before it happened, I needed something bad. And I know I get excited and holler. I think I scare more people out of the kingdom than I do bring them toward the kingdom. I'm afraid I'll turn out like you. All I know is this, y'all. I was living in such a way I could taste everything available, smoke everything available, get hooked up with everything available, and my life was empty, zero, and headed downhill faster than a rock can fall. I tried everything I knew for some peace. Couldn't find it. A boy comes along and tells me about who. What have I got to lose? He came in. And I started feeling different. And it didn't take Schlitz to do it. And it didn't take a pipe to do it. And it didn't take being with so-and-so to do it. It's real. I never regretted getting saved. I never longed for the old days when I can wake up and feel like a truck's run over me 5 times. Calmly happy is a word God chose to use to communicate to the disciple. I'm not talking about the casual observer who accidentally walks down the wrong road and passes a church parking lot and thinks, wonder what those clowns are doing in there. I have no interest. I'm talking about the person who needs a touch from someone bigger than they are. God says, I got something for you. The result could be this: calm happiness. It don't necessarily mean shouting for joy. It don't necessarily mean jumping up and down, running on the tops of the pews. It don't necessarily mean clapping your hands, stomping your feet. You may be all by your lonesome out somewhere on a construction job. But as a believer, as a disciple, God gave it to Paul. He's in the blooming jailhouse. But there's something going on that made him calmly happy. Calmness. How in the world do you describe calmness? They tell me some of you water people describe the water sometimes as a slick calm. Back in the old days they called it a cam, a slick cam. Sounds like a mechanic problem to me. Slick calm. You know, you throw a paper cup overboard and the thing just lays there. God says, I'll give you that on the inside. Now, you got to have a little bit under your belt before you can appreciate that. You know, back when you were 12 or 13, your biggest problem, in fact, if you're like me, your biggest problem was your belly. And no girl ever going to want to kiss me. I look like an old drum. Trouble was, it was the truth. Ain't that good? Then you live 20 or 30 or 40 more years and you decide looking like an oil drum may not be a bad thing. You start walking down them old dark, rocky, never-ending paths. You wake up with the same thoughts that you went to sleep with. Calm is a good thing. Happy. What is happy? You know, if you do a word study, and that's beyond me, but I do own books. Happy comes from the idea of being contented with your, an old-fashioned word, with your hap, with your lot in life. In other words, I hate to mention that old bedraggled cat again. Any of y'all got a cat? I don't know what ails him dudes. You scratch him and he just acts like, man, you're the best thing that ever happened. And I'm thinking, Lily just chewed me out for being ignorant. The cat thinks I'm Superman. I think I'll have supper with Superman tonight. Yeah, just scratch him. And man, he lays down, starts stretching out like he's showing off. I've always quit on him. He never quit on me. I think he'd be laying there now if I was still doing it from yesterday. Just loves it so good. The picture being painted here is that God can give you not only a calmness, but such a satisfaction with right where you are now, that if things change, that'd be lovely. But if they don't, it'll still be lovely. Calm, happy. I got to quit, but I want you to just be sure to notice there are three things here that Paul says in so many words, do a little extrapolating, taking the obscure and lining it up with the clear. Three different facets in his situation in which he's calmly happy. Number one is from verse 18. I'm in jail, but Christ is being talked about. That makes him calmly happy. What ails this guy? Evidently, Christ being talked about is important to him.
Amen.
My first thought was, and I hated it, is Christ that important to me? I can be going through something I don't want to be going through, but through it, because of it, alongside of it, parallel with it, whatever. Christ is being discussed, even if it's in a wrong way, if you will. Paul said, I'm calmly happy with that. If nothing don't never change, I'm going to lay right here with my guards and be content. Contentment. Wow, what a concept. The second thing is verse number 19, if you will. I know that God's going to work for me through your prayers. I wonder, why did he tack that on there? I know God's going to work for me because He's faithful. I know God's going to work for me because God's shown Himself strong in my behalf countless times. And then through the Bible, look at all the characters that have been there that have been helped by God. Paul says, I'm confident that salvation, King James, deliverance, help from above is going to come into my situation because you're going to pray for me. How many of us here, to ask a foolish question, pray regularly for one another? Well, nobody hears it but God. That's like saying the only person that you know of you can get some cash from is Trump. Not Trumpet. Donald. What are y'all, asleep? That's all the resources I've got. It's poor old Donald. My guess is you and Donald could probably work something out. Amen? Just pray. I prayed for him yesterday. Does it ever dawn on you what you're going through, in your little cubby of life right now? The Bible says all believers going through the very same things. You need any help? You need any deliverance? You need any lifting up? You need just a little oomph to help you make it to summertime? The Bible says that fervent prayer, the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. I know you do. I know you pray for one another. Paul was sure that because of those that loved him, they were going to be praying for him and that his situation was going to turn around. I have to be the first to admit, I don't know how this thing prayer works. My thinking is, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, if God's going to listen to Lee, pray for me and give me a little help. Why wouldn't God just do it anyway? Other than He wants Lee to obey Him. He wants Lee and me to understand prayer works. He wants us both to be able to read over there in the book of Psalms that you can limit God, you can limit the Holy One of Israel. He can have more than Trump's got, and we never taste a bit of it because we don't bother asking. You have that because you ask them. But Paul was so sure that he was calmly happy that even though he's in jail, even though he didn't belong there, even though he don't know what tomorrow holds, he's calmly happy because he knows God's going to do something sooner or later. If it ain't nothing but, that brings us to the third point, verse number 20. If I live or if I die, Christ is going to be magnified. That causes me to be calmly happy. I think I told you before, little grandson was up scrounging through my desk, found a magnifying glass. Don't you love grandchildren? Went out and bought some mouse traps. See what you find next time. Not really. He comes down. I got to be careful if he ends up like his daddy, he'll be able to pummel me by the time he's 16. Has this magnifying glass, and he comes up to me. Pop! Yeah, lay on. He held his thumb up. He said, look, little thumb, big thumb. He didn't have to do that like a dozen times and finally it clicked. Little thumb, big. I'm beginning to get it. Oh, wait a minute. That thing's got preach written all over it. The Bible says, the Lord be magnified. The Lord be magnified. Let those that love Him say, the Lord be magnified continually. That's a prayer, forgive me, that little God can be seen as big God because of what He's doing in your life and what comes out of our mouths. Amen. Paul says, it doesn't make a bit of difference to me whether I live or die. Now right there, it gets hung in my craw. But not his. And all you got to do is just read a little bit further. In fact, he says, verse 23, to depart, that equals die, and be with Christ is far better. Amen? Anybody here believe what we preach? I'm not going to miss wine cheese, y'all. I don't think it's going to be no yellow flies nor mosquitoes. There ain't gonna be no cats that are supposed to be girls, boys, whatever. Paul just knows. And he knows to the point where it's literally producing a tangible effect in his life of trouble and turmoil. In the jail cell, don't know all that took place. Scholars believe he was in prison in Rome 2 different times. Most of the writings done probably the first imprisonment. Acts 28 ends with the book telling us that he stayed in his own hired house for 2 years. We think that he was released. Didn't last long. Nero couldn't stand it. Had him arrested again. This was very, very short term. Probably 2 Timothy, written during that time. Just surmising, one morning, they rattled his chain, got him up out of his sleep. None of his companions were with him. Must have been early in the day, late at night, one or the other. And they just walked him out of the prison compound, a short piece. Stopped. Told him to look at the ground. Turned his head over. And down the sword came. What an inglorious way to go from a human perspective. Forgive me though. If that's the way it happened, if he looked down and saw his old dusty, tired, worn feet on an old dirt road, the next thing he saw, old dirty, dusty, or worn. Yeah? So here I sit in my jail cell. And I want you to know something, he says. I am rejoicing, and did you notice, verse 18? I will rejoice. That's like saying, when I sat down at that 4-pound hamburger yesterday, this thing am good, and it's going to keep on being good. I'm going to eat till I get happy, and then take the rest of it home. And I'll never be disappointed, because what is good stays good. And he says, look here, God's good. And I want you to know, I want to do everything in my power. It's as if he's right between the letters, between the lines, to make that small phone look like a great big phone. I want you to know, believer, whether you live, whether you die, Christ can be magnified. Yeah. Anybody here sorry to be saved? No. But you may be here today and you're not sure what the saved business means. It's a simple concept. God says that without him you're lost. You don't know where you are. Think you do. Thought you did. But you really don't. But he can save you. He can go find you, get his hand on you, bring you back to where you know where you are. He only does that through Christ. Well, I'm not sure about Jesus. You can do. You get in the book, the Bible says faith comes by hearing, through reading, through preaching, through teaching. You start finding out things about Jesus. First thing you know, you're going to know about Jesus. And he's the one that paid a debt he didn't owe. And he paid it for folks that owed a debt they couldn't pay. That's me. That's you. Today being saved simply means I was willing to take the Bible at face value and in a figure, if you will, by faith, open my arms up and embrace the Jesus of the Bible. That he'll pay my debt. He'll forgive me of my sin. And because of him, I can be brought into God's family. I can be an adopted child from now on. That's saved. That's here. And then when you die, you're going to get glad. Will you pray with me? Our group's going to come. Sing a song for us that basically poses a question. For every one of us in this room, either in the past tense or future tense, it's the most important question that we ever will encounter. Have you been to Calvary? We speak that because we know the Bible tells us Jesus went to a place called Calvary. And He gave up His life. Not because He had to, not because He owed anybody, but because He chose to. And in so doing, He applied that payment to your account. Would you like to have that payment today? Father, only You can convince in the inwards. Only You can make us know what is true enough to change the way we think. Lord, there may be someone here today struggling. I know about struggling. We all do, one way or another. Lord, that veil that's been torn, pull that thing back, if you will, one more time. Let that old boy, let that old girl see that You're nothing but good. Struggle or not, understand or not, You're God. You've got what we need. Whatever the issues may be, Father, please help us to deal with them with You this morning. We pray in Christ's name. We'll remain praying. If God's laid something on your heart, I encourage you to come.